Knees and toes.
The shoulders have to do with anything?
Because of what you did to my bold prediction. Yes, I'm taking this too far, but I don't care. We're
The
going.
noise is great for those who are audio only.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, May 1st, 2026. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Episode 435. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com, and look for time breakdowns in the description of the show to review. There we go, because it's Friday. Review what happened this past week. Phil's article came out on Tuesday, breaking down the final game of the Buffalo Bandits season. It was also article number 100. Give it a read. Close it out. There will never be another article again until the next one. We also had an interview on Wednesday previewing round 2 of the NLL playoffs with Dawson Nielsen of the Loose Mesh podcast and Inside the Cross. Give that a read. It's about 55-ish minutes long.
Listen.
Give it a read.
Or listen. This is twice now you've wanted people to read your interview.
Yeah. Well, go read it. Like I said, transcript, you can do it. But yeah, go give it a listen. I almost said it again. I just woke up from a nap. Everybody knows about my greenhouse issue. Kind of blew into the backfield. Got destroyed. I'm in the process of digging more holes. Well, I just finished digging more holes to put a garden up, which will not blow away because they're going to be concreted in the ground. But there used to be a pool there, an in-ground pool, many years ago, at least 20, based on Google Maps. And I hit it multiple times, and the concrete's still there. So they kind of just backfilled it. That was fun. So I'm a little tired. Plus, soccer game was 10:30 on Wednesday, and then the night before, Sabres. So I'm running on no sleep. Can't wait for the off season, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Today's episode, we'll go over that schedule for the rest of the month that is leading us into the off-season schedule. And the only reason we got to do that is because this is the first time in 5 years we've been doing the show that we don't have the Bandits through May. This is the first May we've had where the Bandits aren't playing the entire time we've been. I mean, we even had all the way back to when they were playing through June. That's how long we've been doing this. We have Ask the BSC. We got round 2 of the NLL playoffs. We'll preview that a bit. Not in depth like we normally do because it's not Bandits, but we will preview that a bit. Sabres 1 game, and if we have time, the Buffalo Bills off season so far because we really haven't talked about them in a bit. So we'll start with the Buffalo Sabres. Tuesday, game 5. A couple of us went out to a establishment here in Buffalo. I'm not going to give them a free plug. If you want it, sponsor. Sponsorships are available, but they lost 2-1 in overtime.
Now you're never going back.
Might never go back. The establishment closes at 11. The end of the third period was around 10:15, 10:30. So to not risk having to leave in the middle of overtime, not knowing, when overtime's going to end, we were like, okay, it takes like 15, 20 minutes to get home. Let's leave as soon as this period's over. We did, got home. And it was pretty much over right after that. Dowling was the only goal scorer. Lyon, 27 of 29. Shots were in favor of Boston. Buffalo did finally score on the power play, though. Finally happened. They're 1 for like 42, 43, something like that. They were 3 for 3 on the power play. Phil, what were your thoughts on the game? And I know we have had disagreements for the first time in a while on some certain players on this team.
Yeah, I thought you could just tell one team looked desperate and one team looked like they had games to spare. And you'd like to see Buffalo, especially after they scored first and early, you'd like to see them carry that momentum into the rest of the game. You're at home. take it from that point on, but this time they just got lulled to sleep by Boston, and Boston was able to hang in there long enough to take it. I thought Buffalo at the very end of the third finally started pushing again a little bit, and you could see some changes and some big opportunities. Even in overtime, they looked pretty good to start the overtime, but it was just too little too late. And I think they just seem to play down to Boston or play Boston style of game. And I think Boston in an elimination game gave everything they possibly had and beat Buffalo 2-1 in overtime. So I still think Buffalo is the much better team. I think they will still win this series. I think they just need to play their game the entire time and don't worry about anything that's happening with Boston, because I still don't think Boston's a good team. Again, desperation mode for them, and they barely squeaked out a victory. And if it wasn't for Swayman, again, I don't think they would have won this game either. I don't think Boston's very good, but you still have to go out there and beat them. So now you're 1-2 at home and 2-0 on the road. So that doesn't look very good either. But I don't want a game 7, so go get it. You can win at home again in round 2. That's fine. But yeah, I think they can go get it. I think they're still the better team. They just got to come out and play their style of game and want it more. I just think Boston wanted it more in that game, and even still, again, barely won in overtime with them. I don't think they outplayed Buffalo. I just think they played more desperate than Buffalo did, and I think it was a pretty boring game for the most part. Just got stuck in the neutral zone very often.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like game 1, where at least the later half of the third and overtime, it felt like they were the better team from top to bottom, but it just felt like they couldn't beat Swayman. Who would have thought they couldn't beat Swayman on 5-on-5? That's the first time. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The home teams are 1-4 in this series. It's insane. So that bodes well for Buffalo. You just got to win it in game 6. I thought Boston at times dragged Buffalo into playing their style of game, like you mentioned, and that's not the style. I really thought once Buffalo scored that first one, especially in the power play, Boston wasn't going to be able to come back, and it felt like Buffalo almost took a back seat a bit, along with Swayman playing really well in that, and like you said, Boston felt like the more desperate team to get the win there. So I feel like it was a bit of an anomaly, because I really think that once Buffalo scores first and has the lead, Boston has to adjust their style, and I don't think they're a good enough team to do that. But this felt like a game where in game 1, where Boston was getting those breakaways, Buffalo was making those saves. This one, Lyon just didn't make that one save because Pasta likes to cheat a bit. He likes to go. I was trying to figure out a Pasta comment to tie it all in, but I couldn't. In my head, I'm still trying to think of one.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I got nothing either. But yeah, he was like puppy guarding and cheating a bit. He was one of those players that is like hiding behind the defense that in gym class that you always hated one of those players, but it was a strategy that sometimes worked. It was a great move, and he stayed on sides barely, but he stayed on sides. Everybody's talking about his foot skates up. No, he was on sides. He was on sides. He was not off sides. Barely, but hell of a move to stay on sides. The Oslin injury, I mean, that one's major. They just were not the same team when he went out to injury. I know he went out and he tested it, and I was like, okay, this is a good sign. He went out on the ice. He tested this. He'll be back by next series. To quote Lindy Ruff, doesn't look good. That's scary because this team has not looked the same without him in the lineup. Now, I know there had been talk about calling up Konstas Helenius, and I don't mind that decision, but I also don't mind the Josh Norris one. And this is where we differ. You are not the biggest fan, or haven't been the biggest fan, of Josh Norris in the playoffs. I agree with you in the fact that he has not looked good in the playoffs. But I have also said that if he's getting the hate, Ryan McLeod should also get the hate. But the player to me that I think needs the most hate right now is Jason Zucker. I do not think he has played very well. I think that he has had chances, especially in that game 5, but he's not bearing it. And to me, when you're already 5 games into the playoffs, it's less about the chances you're getting and more about actually capitalizing in this. Because going into this series, I was like, okay, Jason Zucker is going to have to camp out in front of the net with Jeremy Swayman's inability to control the rebounds. And we've seen that through 5 games. Like, he's leaving juicy rebounds up there. Like, Boston's head coach is complaining about Buffalo, getting in on Swayman and making contact with Swayman. Well, if the puck's loose, players are going to be jabbing at your goalie. Tell your goalie to come up with a clean, or your defenders to clear that puck out. So I thought, even going into this one, I thought Jason Zucker needed to be big in this series. And through 5 games, he's got 1 assist, and that came in the last game. But when I dug more into the numbers, this is where it gets scarier. I mean, this season he played in 62 games, 24, 21, and 45. Last year, 21, 32, and 53. Good numbers in the regular season. But Phil, in 57 playoff games, he's 9, 10, and 19. Those ain't good numbers. And the numbers are reflecting this season what we have seen from, or I guess other fan bases have seen from Jason Zucker in the playoffs. It's not good enough. Like, I agree Josh Norris has not been good. He's got 0 points in 2 games. But you also have to remember, in game 1, he took that nasty hit into the boards, and he has not looked the same since. But I agree. Josh Norris has to step up. He has to, being one of the top, guys that's making money, if you want to use that as an excuse. But I also threw out Jordan Greenway. It's making $4 million, so he's got to step up. But I agree. Norris does have to step up. But I think in line with that, Ryan McLeod has to step up, and he has to shoot the stinking puck, not pass it in the middle of the, like, he was so wide open. What are you doing? Like, that's been his case all season long. He's not even putting the puck on net. Like, he's one of the few players in the NHL that doesn't want to score. It makes no sense. But also, Jason Zuckers needs to step up. Besides Dahlin in the fifth, in game 5, he's been very good defensively, but have you noticed him offensively? I haven't. Like, there's just other players to me that also need to step up, and I don't think that Josh Norris should be getting the hate, not just from you. It's all over X. It's all over social media. He's getting way more heat than, to me, I think he deserves, but I think he's getting the amount of hate and disdain because of the salary and because of the trade that came with him. But when you're looking at it, there's other players that are similar type of responsibility type players that are also not performing.
Yeah, my big hate for Norris just comes from all of it. It's just pretty much since he got here, he hasn't been healthy. He's been not all that productive for the team as a whole, and he's just hasn't lived up to what I was hoping he could be when he was healthy. I know his health concerns have always been a major red flag for his whole career so far, but when he was healthy, he wasn't great. And then, like you said, at the end of the season, he did start to pick it up, and then in playoffs, he wasn't doing too much yet. But I agree with you that pretty much even, I don't know, it's tough to say the top line because they're the only ones doing anything. But to me, that's the biggest issue right now with the Sabres, that their entire secondary scoring has vanished.
Yeah.
The top line plus defensemen are the only ones doing anything. And the defensemen,
that second line of Quinn, Zucker, and McLeod have done squat.
Right. And even like you said, the defensemen that are doing things aren't named Dahlin, who's supposed to be doing things. So it's very strange, but right now your second, third, and fourth lines all need to start pitching in something. They need to do something to help this team along. And to me, against a Boston-style defense where they are big in front of the net, they do seem to often tie up the Sabres forwards. You want those bottom lines that are a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. And like you said, the rebound control from Swayman to be just launching pucks at the net, get big Greenway in front of the net, block a view, and then if the rebound's there, use your big body frame and slam it home. Like, to me, the scrappy lines are the ones that need to be getting those garbage goals, because that seems to be what's available to them, and they're not coming through with even one of those. And I think that's a big problem. And again, I didn't want to complain about the top line because they're the only ones doing pretty much anything. But in that last game, I was waiting for a Thompson takeover moment or a Tuck takeover moment, and it just never really materialized. And I think that was kind of just a little frustrating, knowing how good both of them are. And not that they had bad games per se, they were still getting opportunities, but I was waiting for Tuck to just, or Thompson to just make some magic happen. Like, that's why you're out there. You're one of the best forwards in the game. Like, go do something really mind-blowing. And yes, he had a few good opportunities, but he never really had that moment. I mean, I think at the end of the game when he had who was it that passed it? Was it Krebs? Yeah, Krebs went all the way around and passed him and found him
Yeah.
on the back door, and it was a great save by Swayman. But bro, get that up off the ground, flick it. But yeah, the whole secondary scoring of the Sabres, like from the top line down and then Dahlin, is just not good enough right now. All of it needs to be better. And it's wild to say that Oslin, who had 27 points in 60 games, is your deal breaker in the playoffs. And I do agree with you. Clearly there's a difference between him in the lineup and out of the lineup, but he shouldn't be making or breaking your playoff roster right now. I think he's valuable, but it's weird that like you said, like a Zucker, like the guys at the top of the second line should be creating way more than they are, and they just haven't been able to do it. It's pretty much been the top line. Byram, who's been a maniac so far in the series, he's looked fantastic. Power's gotten some things, but for the most part, it's been Byram, Tuck, Thompson, and then Krebs, and that's pretty much your whole offense. Everyone else is chipping in one here and there. I know playoffs, it's tough to find goals, but they need to be better from their second, third, and fourth lines. And maybe adding Norris back into the lineup does things. Maybe they shake up the bottom lines with Norris back in. Do they mix it up and just throw a lot of different things out there? I'm not sure, but I thought Doan looked good in the last game. He was finally moving and making some big opportunities, but all of it needs to be better from the offense. I mean, even the top line really has had moments, but still not what you're looking for from the top line. I mean, we're into game 6 and Thompson has 2 goals in 5 games. And again, a lot of it's Swayman. He's playing really well, but the whole entire offense that is one of the better 5-on-5 offenses in the league just needs to be performing better. They had one incredible game and a few incredible moments, but consistently throughout the whole playoffs, they really have been pretty absent.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the lines look pretty much the same based on practice on Thursday, so I would assume that it's just Oslin comes out and Norris slides right into his spot. I like the pairing with Josh Doan and Zach Benson. They're the ones that are flying around the ice. I think they need to finish a bit more,
Yep.
and maybe having a guy like Norris can help a bit with those two and get them going. But I agree with you. The secondary scoring needs to pick it up. They need to find ways to beat Jeremy Swayman. And I know he just got announced as a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. I get he's tough goalie to beat. He's one of the best goalies in the league. I get that. You got to get to the dirty area. I think if they get up to a 2-0 lead, it used to be a 1-0 lead. I think if you get a 2-0 lead, Boston, their will and their ability to score that many goals is just going to disappear. Because it's not like they're pumping in goal after goal
Right.
after goal. Like 3 straight games, they've scored 1 goal in regulation. The game on Tuesday, they needed overtime to put a second one past them.
Right.
So this isn't a knock on Lyon. This isn't a knock on the back end. This is a knock on them. Got to find ways to finish against Swayman. Get to the dirty areas. Get in front of the net. Cash one of these loose pucks home. Get it up and over the stick. How many times have we seen them get in the position perfectly like a Jason Zucker and they just can't lift the puck in? So I think game 6 is massive. You cannot lose that game. And
No.
by the time we talk again, it's going to be over. Like one way or the other. And I'm pulling up the schedule right now because I want to see if we have to adjust. TBD on the time on Sunday. So we might have to adjust our schedule. Hopefully it won't come down to that. Hopefully they wrap it up on Friday. Friday at 7:30, and they moved my soccer game actually. I was supposed to play soccer at 11:30 or 9 o'clock on Friday. And they were like, let's put this off a week because the Sabres play on Friday. I was like, thank you. Don't have to miss this. But yeah, we'll be able to talk to you guys about this game on the next episode. But win game 6. You cannot let this go home to game 7. Anything can happen in a weird game 7. We've seen game 7s before, and I know that's been a while, but the last time Buffalo, got booted from the playoffs, it was a game 7. You've seen game 7s with them chance to go to the Stanley Cup. It's not a fun time to be in a game 7. Go win game 6. Put this to bed. The other game matchup between Tampa and Montreal is going to be going to a Game 6 as well, with Montreal leading 3-2 over Tampa Bay. Root for Tampa Bay. Make that one go to Game 7, and they play on Sunday, and you get a little extra rest. I was really hoping that they would end this on Tuesday, get extra rest. Carrick, who knows? I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon. I think they're kind of just like doing a little gamesmanship with that. I don't think he's going to be back for playoffs, even if they make a Stanley Cup run.
He's the one that, like, right now, he's the one you would need to, like, his physical
scrappy
style and everything.
style.
Exactly. Like, he is the one. He's the one you're missing pretty badly right now.
Yeah, and I don't see Oslin coming back this playoff run either. It looked like a nasty spill. I got such hype.
I know.
When he did that skate, and I was like, okay, they're just not going to push it. Like, they're good. And then it was not looking good. But both Game 6s for Montreal, Tampa Bay, and Buffalo versus Boston are Friday. The first one starts at 7. Buffalo starts at 7:30. And then the next one starts Sunday, all TBD. But Phil, go Sabres. Please win on Friday. We'll move on. Bandits. Ask the BSC. We'll start here. And these all, two of the 3 are future questions for the Buffalo Bandits. We're not going to go super in depth, but I think I brought it to you by saying we're going to do the Cliff Notes version of it, because these are topics of conversation in the off season. And it's weird that we're trying to still cover the Buffalo Bandits without burning through all of our off season topics while the playoffs are still going on. So we're kind of blending these, but to Ask the BSC, we had 3 questions get submitted. The first one: what is the Bandits' biggest positional need this offseason besides goalie? And without going too much in depth and knowing, okay, who are free agencies and who's going to be in free agency, who's going to be retiring, and so on and so forth, I think just at the base level, again, the Cliff Notes version, in my opinion, Kyle Buchanan, Paul Dawson, and Matt Vince are retiring. I could also see Matt Spanger stepping away or going elsewhere as well. I could see them either moving Evan C, or he's coming back as your backup and you keep Shaganash as your practice roster goalie. And I know we're not talking about roster. I'm kind of just condensing about this. Joey Rez, does he decide to come back, or does he hang it up? He's an older guy who maybe he wanted to finish his career with Buffalo. Maybe he wants to come back. Maybe he goes elsewhere. But the current UFAs for Buffalo right now, and again, this is all Cliff Notes version. We're going to go more in depth in the offseason, but this is just to answer the question, basically. Current UFAs for the Buffalo Bandits: you got Kyle Buchanan, Paul Dawson, Mitch DeSnew, Joey Rez, Ian McKay, Matt Spanger, Matt Vince, and Nick Weiss. I personally think it's got to be the forward group. It's either the lefty or the righties, and I lean more righty. And I don't think there's any way Kyle Buchanan comes back based on the comments made by players and multiple people around the league. They were saying that some of these veterans are not going to be back regardless of the results. I think he's one of them. I feel like Joey Rez is probably going to come back, but you're not positive on that. And then with the lefties, you have to assume Ian McKay's coming back, but again, he's a UFA. Maybe somebody tosses a ton of money at him, like we thought with Chris Cloutier and Chase Frazier. Like, you never know, especially in this offseason, what's going to happen, especially after what we saw last offseason with all the big forwards moving. In my opinion, I think the biggest need right now for the Buffalo Bandits going in, besides goaltender, is a righty shooting forward. I don't think they have one. I think they desperately missed one. I thought Dane Smith had to step up in a role that, took him away from having to be just a strictly a playmaker, which he can do, but the responsibility that the offense had to put on him, especially when Josh Byrne was going through his issues on the forward group, it was just pretty much Dane Smith, go make something happen and good luck. So I think they need to replace that Chase Frazier role that they didn't really replace, even if a Joey Rez comes back. So to me, I think it's a shooting righty. It's a bigger sniper type of guy. I think they're going to need to add another forward either way. But to me, I lean righty forward.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it all comes down to offense for me. I don't think it was anywhere near good enough this year. I think there's a loaded draft coming up. You've got a pretty good draft pick. I think
Yeah.
this team has run it back so many years in a row, and it has worked so many years in a row. So there's been no problem with them running it back. Now that the dynasty's done. So now to me, you need to start flipping the page and moving on to the next chapter of this team. And I think you need to get younger on offense. I think even with Dane and Josh, as incredible as they are, and I think they both finished top 5, I want to say,
Yes,
in
I believe so.
points. So even with a down year on offense, they still are 2 of the best in the game. I still think they need an injection of youth to that forward group. And we'll get into it in a second with early predictions, but I don't know. This is maybe more off-season stuff, but to me, I would love to see them, and this is going to be not a great look, but I would love to see them just take a step back next year and take a year off and kind of reevaluate where they are. I think if you look at a Georgia, it just crushed you, and I know their offense isn't supposed to be good, but I think they're starting to put it together exactly how they want to. But their mix of youth and veterans, or you go to Toronto, their mix of youth and veterans. I understand Buffalo's not getting top three picks, but Nolan Byrne this year was 8th overall. Buffalo has 7th overall. So I'm not saying you're going to go out and get a Nolan Byrne, but that style of player, that level of player may be available to Buffalo. And I think you can see what a team like Georgia can do when they injected an incredible rookie into their lineup. Even Benedict, I know he was 23, so he's been a little bit, but he was 19th overall. And yes, it took a couple years for him to get going, but he had a good season. Again, a younger player. To me, this team's too old right now, and they have like Dietrich's done a good job bringing youth along as with the veterans. I'm not saying that they're super old and can't just retool and run it back, but I would love to see them just take a year to reevaluate the team, especially with these next 2 drafts supposed to be as good as they are, and go get. To me, I agree with you. I think it's a righty forward first, but I also think you need a lefty forward, and I don't think, as much as I love McKay and Scanlon and Byrne over there, I think they still need another lefty to do something. To me, again, this is depends on how you want to look at this team, but I don't know personally if I would want Joey Rez back. I love him as a player. I'm super excited for them to get him, but I want to see this team start switching the chapter and getting younger again. So to me, I'm letting an older guy like Joey Rez test the market and do whatever he wants to do. I wouldn't bring him back. I would want the youth to come in. So to me, I would want a new righty forward that's young on that side to replace Buchanan and Joey Rez. And then I want a new lefty forward on the other side that's young to help that left side along, because even when they were healthy, we saw the left side struggled a lot of the year. And even though Ian McKay just had his best season again for points, it still wasn't good enough a lot of the time. That when Josh wasn't there and he was having a little bit of a struggle, no one was there to really pick up his side. So I think they need 2 younger forwards on each side of the ball to just inject some youth and life back into this offense. And then on top of Dane, Josh, Nanakoke, McKay, Scanlon, I think that is kind of what you would need to round out and become an elite offense pretty quickly. Again, I think this team's more of a retool than a rebuild for sure. They've done plenty of rebuilding as this championship run has gone on, but I do think they need a lot of youth added and a lot of talent added that we've talked about it a lot. They've missed out on a lot of talent because you're giving up draft picks to retool during playoff runs, because your draft picks are 14, 15, 16, no matter what it is, or just a second round because you gave up a first to bring someone in. So they haven't had the opportunity to get a lot of the younger players. I think now is that chance.
So I agree to an extent. Don't want to see them take a step back, and I don't think they need to. But I do agree with you that they need to reshape what their mindset is on the forward group and get younger and get quicker. And I think that's one aspect that they they need to go, because I think that's the direction of the league. And I agreed and supported and understand the trade for Joey Rez. It
Agreed.
was trying to
Yep.
put them up and over top when you're on that big winning streak, getting out of, I shouldn't say on it, but they were at the start of it. They were on a 2-game winning streak, got back to 6-6 and made that trade. But when you're looking at a revisionist history, like a piece like a Lucas Nielsen is the type of player that you would want on this team. But again, I get it. I supported it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like there's not a anything in my brain that says they shouldn't have done that deal. They should have. And they did. And they went for it. And that was the correct decision. And we supported that because we were saying this might be the final season of Matt Vince. You have to go all in for it. Screw the future. If you can go for a 4th straight title, you have to. But now that that's done and that mission was not a success, now you have to look at, okay, how do they rework it? I agree with you that it might not be the smartest decision to bring back a Joey Rest who is older, who is slower, but you're going to have to replace, if he doesn't come back, you're going to have to replace 2 righty forwards. You're going to have to probably add another lefty forward. So you're switching up a completely different offense. And to me, at least personally, I don't think that you could take a step back because you have a Josh Byrne and a Dane Smith. And this is not me saying that they're up and over the hill, but Dane's going to be 34 next season. Josh Byrne's going to be 32. They're not spring chickens anymore. Like they're either at the peak or on the down part of their careers. You have to keep, like, they're the next wave of players that you're going to be, and I'm not saying that that's anywhere close. I think Dane can play another 10 years. I think Josh can play another 10 years. But they're getting to the point of the families are starting. They're building the homes for themselves. Like, how much longer do they want to play? The families are starting. So now they're the next wave of the Kyle Buchanans, the Matt Vinces, the Paul Dawsons of, they're the older pieces here. You can't be adding older pieces. Then they are the older pieces. So to me, I don't think you can personally take a step back because you need to keep pouring this on and doing a, like you said at the end, a retool, not a rebuild, and kind of add the pieces around them so you can continue to be a playoff threat. Will they be the favorites going into the season? Personally, I don't think so because I don't see Man Vince returning. And with all the, I can see this team looking very different. Like, they've been able to keep it together for so long.
Yep.
That doesn't happen in sports. Like, they're the exception, not the rule to what we've seen, even in a smaller league like NLL, where, you know, a lot of players don't change teams because of their work life and their home life. But what they were able to do on this 5-year run, I guess 6-year run, was not normal. But I do think that this is going to be a year where it's not a full rebuild, but I do think that they're going to be interchanging pieces, and this team's going to look very different than it did even this year. And this year looked pretty different, especially in the offensive end. I think there's a lot of pieces here that are core pieces that are going to be hanging around for a while. But I do think that there's going to be secondary pieces that could be interchanged and moved out. Like, there could be bigger names on this team besides the ones that are retiring, in my opinion. But I could see some of these bigger name players that you've seen for the last few years not on this team next year. And I'm not dropping names because I don't know right now. But I could see it. And I kind of just mentioned, like, the Ian McKay. I expect him back, but I also expected Kluch and Frazier back. Wild things happen when free agency happens, and a lot of money's dished out to players to be full-time NLL players. That's what happened with Kluch and Frazier. So I would expect him back, but you got to leave the door open that he's a UFA. It might not happen. I mean, I believe, don't quote me on this, I'll have to double check it. I should check beforehand. I believe they'll have the franchise tag, so they could technically put it on Ian McKay, I believe. Again, I'll have to double check. He might not be eligible for that with the new changes. Again, I should have checked this beforehand, but that's a free agency mark and a conversation down the road. That's the Cliff Notes version.
Get some offense.
Forwards, righties, more than likely, but there's probably going to be 3 or 4 forwards they're going to have to bring in that could be key contributors to this team next year. Next one, Phil. This one got asked last week before the playoffs were even added, so we added it to this show here. Right now, at this very moment, knowing what we know now and not knowing what we don't know, what are your way too early predictions for the Buffalo Bandits record next season?
I maybe I'm just being too negative about all of it, just because it's not even like a upset or anything that the dynasty's over by any means. It's not coming from that kind of negativity. I just think with what we saw from the league this year and how all these teams have stepped up and caught up, and Buffalo's about to take a step back, I worry that they're not going to be where I want them to be. But personally, I could see them. I don't think they're over 500. I think they'll be around 500. I have them closer to like 7-11. I think this year, I like this year wasn't good. A lot of the games they won, and you and I talked about it a lot, and we'll talk about it more into the offseason, were because of Matt Vince standing on his head, playing like an absolute maniac. And they don't know what's going on in goal. But no matter what happens, you're not getting Matt Vince. And no matter who you get, it's likely a step back. And you've already seen the
I
offense
don't
take
think it's likely. It's a step
It
back.
is, yeah. Sorry. It's going to be a step back. How big of a step back? I don't know. But you're going to go a step down. And I think already this season, their record would have looked much, much different had Matt Vince not been there and playing the way he was in a lot of those close games when the offense wasn't doing enough to keep up with other teams. And I don't know how much the offense is going to be able to change in one offseason to have them go back to where they were when they had Cloutier and Fraser. So then you're asking the defense to step up again. They're losing some pieces. And then more importantly, your goalie is gone. So to me, I just think there's too much adding up to what this season already looked like, which wasn't great and needed a 7-game win streak to get to the point where they were. And a lot of those games end up being in overtime or 1-goal wins. And again, so much of that had to do with how great Matt Vince was playing. So to me, I could see them closer to 7-11. Was that 9-9? Somewhere in there. I don't think they'll be horrible by any means. I think they'll be in every game. Like you said, it's a retool, not a rebuild. They still have plenty of pieces on this team that are going to be great. And let's go over it later. But there aren't a huge number of holes on this roster because it's not a rebuild. You're not shipping out Dane and Josh. Like, their team still has plenty of talent and they're still good. But I think without Vince back there, plus the other pieces you're missing on an offense that was already struggling that you have to replace, I think it's going to be more challenging than I would like it to be. And I could see them sitting just under 500 outside of playoffs, or just around that. What was there? 1, 2, 3, 4 teams finished 8-10 this year. I could see them sitting right in that range, trying to make playoffs from like an 8th seed position.
So we're talking as if Matt Vince is not returning because that's really what we're predicting. I think, don't hear, we're not saying we want him to be back. And
yeah, if he could come back, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, if he
and would change
does
everything.
somehow magically, they're able to convince him to come back for again, I think they're right back in contention.
Yes.
Like, I think they're right where they were this year, maybe a tick better depending on what they do at the forward group. I just don't see it. I don't see a world where Matt Vince is your goalie next year. Is he a part of the team? Yes. I mean, Dietrich already said that there's a place in the organization for him. So he's going to be a part of the organization. He ain't going to be between the pipes, in my opinion, and that's what we're predicting here. So it comes down to what do they do in net, and I don't, just based on what we've seen from Steve Dietrich in this run this last 6 years, and I know there's the COVID years, but I'm excluding the COVID year and then the dating back to the season, the completed season before COVID. I hate the stupid COVID issue because at least we're far enough away where it doesn't really factor in too much. I don't see a world where your goalies are Evan C. and Shagnosh. They're gonna bring in somebody. Yeah. Is it a Warren Hill? Is it a Nick Damoud? Is it, possibly a Nick Rose from Toronto? They're gonna bring in somebody that's going to either push Evan C. for the starter's position, or Evan C. is just going to be your backup, and whoever they bring in is going to be your starter. To me, there isn't a world where they run it with an inexperienced netminder in net. I think Shagnosh is the future. I really do. I
Yep.
think that he is a stud in net, but he's a stud that's 18, 19 years old. I hear all the things about CDB and Caleb Kahn and blah 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 blah. CDB is the exception. He's not the rule. It doesn't happen. Goalies don't really blossom until they're 24, 25, 26, 27. Shagnosh is like 8, 9 more years until he's even at that age. He's not the goalie next year. He's probably not even the goalie the following year. Is he the goalie of the future? 100%. I really do believe that. But he's not the goalie for the present or the near future. It's just not going to happen. So it comes down to what they do in net. But no matter what they do in net, it's a step back. Even at Matt Vince, who's 43, 44 years old, it's going to be a step back. You can't just replace the GOAT. And I've said it multiple times. I said it in the last show. He's the greatest lacrosse player that's ever played. I don't care what anybody says he is. You can't just replace that overnight. So they're going to take a step back there. They're going to have to restructure their defense a bit because of the pieces, at least one that's going out. They're going to have to restructure the offense. Again, it's what stinks about the Buchanan, the Dawson, and the Mad Vents. You got a piece at every part, and they were all critical pieces. So right now, at this moment, thinking and predicting what I see them doing, I think it's a 9-9, 10-8 type of thing. I don't see them missing the playoffs, but I see them as like a 6, 7, 8, and possibly even 9, depending on how the rest of them do. But 9-9 get you in. Like I really believe 9-9 get you in. I think they're going to be competing for a 9-9, 10-8 record as long as they are able to bring somebody in that's not an Alex Bouquet, that's not a Landon Kells, that's not somebody that's like such a drop off that you need your defense to play perfectly. I do think that they're going to be able to do something in net. It's just what it's going to be. But I think a 10-8 type of record with the offense, Dane Smith and Josh Brent, like to me, I think you can flat out say offensively, based on what we have seen in prior years, they had down years, and that's insane considering both of them were in top 5. But I don't see them doing that again next year. I see them rebounding back to the 120, 130 type of players that we've seen in the past. Again, I know that's asking a lot, but when you put the bar that high, you kind of got to hit it. And I also see that the defense could be even quicker than we saw this year. Like with some of the older pieces going out, you could replace them with the Taylor Dooleys, with the Carter Coffees, with the so on and so forth, the younger pieces on the back end. So I think a 9-9, 10-8 record type of thing, as long as they do what I'm predicting, is kind of where I think they're going to end up.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Again, we've been not excited to get to this offseason because I would much rather see a 4P and I'd much rather see a Matt Vince still in the pipes and all that kind of exciting stuff.
As somebody that's covering the team, we like that they're good. As content creators, the unknown gives us so many more topics to talk about.
And this is the first offseason we've had in a very long time with a lot of unknowns, and it's
last year was good, but this year I think is going to be like the best we've had.
But I think that's what it really comes down to is what can you do? To me, it's what can you do in the draft on offense, and then what can you do as far as goaltending goes in free agency / trades. I think their defense, even though they're going to be losing some pieces, I still think, you've had 19 guys rotate in every single game. So I think their defense for the most part should be pretty intact and okay. I'm sure they'll add some depth and some pieces here and there, but like Coffee stepped in, played pretty well. Dooley was pretty good when he had his opportunities. So I think they have the players right there to step in that they need to plug immediate holes and then add depth and add whatever you can. But to me, it's all going to come offense from the draft and then whoever you can grab from goalie. But I do think, like you said, 9-9, maybe 10-8, but we'll have to see.
So last question is not Bandits related. Sorry. But I think we just talked like 20, 25 minutes on Bandits, which is insane on 2 questions. Last one, and it's kind of a hot button topic right now, so I'm not completely shocked we got it. And it's not even what we talked about last episode, even though we got pushback on that as well. Should the NLL restructure the playoffs? And I'll put it like this. Per Dawson Nielsen, they can expand by up to 9 games based on the CBA. But the playoffs still has to be done in 7 weeks. So I'll say for the record, more lacrosse is always more fun. And in the end, in the long-term goal, that should be the long-term goal. But at the moment, no. Like, they cannot make more games in this playoffs. We're already seeing issues with the 7 games that they have. First off, scheduling. Like, I already went into it on Twitter. I already went into it last show. The league looks like a Pee-wee league based on Halifax, the number 8 seed, having the ability to host 2 home games over the number 4 seed in Georgia. Like, Georgia, again, arena issues, I get it. But that proves even further why you cannot give the playoffs 2 more games. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've condensed the season and they've had scheduling issues. I'm not downplaying or, I'm acknowledging that scheduling games this late in the season on short-term notice for some of these teams who are 3rd, 4th, 5th in line for dates available isn't easy.
I mean,
I'm not denying that.
The Bandits were looking at a Thursday home game. The Bandits, who are 3-time champs and have owned that arena forever, now that the Sabres are back in playoffs, Buffalo was looking at a Thursday night home game if they would have advanced. Like, that's where arena availability is on short notice.
Yeah, that's I am acknowledging the travel restrictions and some of these cities are hard to fly into and the back-to-backs are not easy. I'm acknowledging that. And I'm saying that the league looks like a Pee-wee minor league team by giving Halifax an extra home game if it even comes down to it. I'm really hoping that it's a sweep either way so we don't come to that. But that to me alone is the reason why you cannot add 2 more games to this and not extend how many weeks you have to finish it. Like, with the Dawson interview, he explains why he likes the condensed version because of the compete, because in his opinion, most times than not, the better team wins it. And he gave the example of Buffalo going to the cryotherapy, going to working out nonstop. Like, the better teams end up winning because of the extra work they put in and treating their bodies like the temples they are. But to me, I don't like it. Like, you can't do it right now until you get more revenue in this league, until players are more full-time players where they're not working, where they don't have to take off a Thursday night game in Buffalo. Like, until this regular season also expands to 20 to 30 games, I don't like it because I don't like the possibility of having 9 playoff games, which is half of a season. I think 18 games in 21 weeks is already a lot for these players. 9 games in 7 weeks? Like, that's not realistic. Get out of here with that. Like, it can't happen. Right now, where this league is and the position that they're in with scheduling and with flights and all that kind of stuff that is not that fun to listen to and talk about, even though we acknowledge it, to me, they have to go back to the 1 game a week schedule. And I get that, the changes that they made for this were for the summer league. So their players in that play in both leagues are the ability to miss time. But the PLL, in return, moved up their whole schedule. So you doing them a favor, they're like, oh, watch this. We're just going to move up the season. I don't know the behind the scenes. Maybe they're talking about it and blah, 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 blah. But to me, if you want to keep the 7 possible games, which you cannot expand to 9, if you want to keep the 7 possible games, like, I kind of like Cody Jansen. I believe he's the one that said it on X, but I want it with a tweak a bit. Why not start it with round 1, because 1 week is 1, and then have 1 week off. So then you have an extra week to schedule those flights, to schedule the arenas. And I get the arenas are still going to be an issue until they got better draws and all that kind of stuff at the arenas. But then that's 7 and 6 weeks. Like, regardless of what happens right now, what's in place ain't working. Like, they need to go to the board of governors and the commissioner and readdress what this is going on right now, because expanding 2 more possible games isn't going to help whatsoever. So to me, I want more games in this league, but realistically, where they are right now, it's not possible and it's not feasible. And I think Adam quote tweeted a tweet out there. The teams in the league are showing that this isn't working. Like, it's not feasible. It's not possible. they got to change something. Like, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, it's the definition of an insanity. If you add 2 more possible games, and again, it might not happen because you don't have to go all 3. The series don't have to go to 3 games each. You cannot realistically, for the sanity of the league and me, expand it 2 more games, regardless if it's the finals and going 1-3-5 or 3-3-3 all the way through. It's lunacy to even be having this conversation based on what we're seeing right now. It can't happen. It can't happen.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's being brought up when all the top seeds get bumped in round 1. Seems pretty suspicious that now we want first round 3 games to give ourselves a chance there. But yeah, like you said, the scheduling is just there's no way to add games when you're already struggling to schedule what you have on the plate.
And remember, it has to be within 7 weeks.
Right, which is also
the other restriction.
very, very difficult. And I don't see that happening. I do think you mentioned it at one point of starting the season earlier, and I don't know why that is an issue. And maybe that was explained to you and I missed it. But to me, that would solve a lot of things. That if you're concerned about bumping up to the PLL and all the summer games and everything like that, and the playoffs run too late into the summer, start the season earlier and you don't run into those problems as much. Even scheduling right now for the regular season, I mean, teams get like 4 bye weeks out of absolutely nowhere, and they get some of them back to back, and like the schedule is all over the place. And again, I understand it's all because of arena availability, but if you start the season earlier, maybe you can give teams more options to find those holes in the arena that are available to them and make the schedule work a little bit better. And then when it comes to playoffs, you have a little bit more flexibility. But I agree with you. I think adding games to a schedule that's already not working is not the answer until down the line. If they figure out, like, if we have a couple of good seasons of playoffs where they iron out all the details of scheduling and it's rolling pretty smooth, and at that point you want to talk about trying to add some games, that's an option. But the biggest issue to me is the fact that it's all in 7 weeks. Like, the fact that you can add games but still need in the same time frame seems like an issue in the CBA. It seems like if you should have added games, you should have added weeks. Like 2 extra games, 2 extra weeks, make it work. But the fact that it's more games in the same number of weeks that you're already not really getting scheduled very well, and like you mentioned, very tough for the players with what they're doing. And I mean, we bring it up a lot, but they all have second jobs for the most part. Not all of them, but most of them have second jobs that they're trying to work around. So adding more games and all this, like, it just makes their lives already that much more difficult. So
yeah, I know we're already up and over 50 minutes, but I just want to, again, I know we got pushback from multiple people about the Georgia issue. It never came down to me not acknowledging that it was a difficult position based on Georgia's situation. I understood that. I get that. I don't think that there was ever going to be a good outcome. My main point is something that nobody can deny, and everybody seems to agree. It is not a good look for the league. And when I'm talking here, I'm not talking about logistics. I don't give 2 farts. I don't get paid to try to figure out situations. My point is, and based on an outsider's perspective, it's a horrible look for the league, for new fans, average fans, veteran fans, that you're allowing a number 8 seed in Halifax. Again, this is not a shot at Halifax whatsoever. You're allowing an 8 seed Halifax to host possibly 2 home games over the number 4 Georgia seed, who spent 6 months busting their butts to earn that home field advantage. And again, I get part of it's on Georgia's arena and part of it's on Georgia not having those arena dates available. It's a mess from top to bottom, 100%. But my main point, again, just so it's very clear, it's a horrible look for the league, whether you want to give them responsibility on that or not. that you're allowing a lower seed to host a possible game 3 over the number 4 seed. There's no defense to it. I don't care what you try to come at me. There's not a good defense for it.
And Georgia only has 4,000 fans that are upset. If this was happening to Buffalo,
yeah,
and
that's the thing. Like, imagine if this was Buffalo
fans,
in that position.
There'd be some serious screaming going on around the league that Buffalo doesn't get 2 home games and they have to go away for 2. And I think you even mentioned, like, the players don't care as much per se. I mean, I'm sure they do.
Win the first 2 games and it doesn't matter, but it's still the appearance.
Yeah. But yeah, if this was Buffalo, I think there'd be a much bigger outcry. But because it's Georgia and sadly they're 4,000 fans, it's not as big of a push as maybe it would be if it was Buffalo.
And 2,000 of those were Buffalo Bandits fans.
Yes.
We'll move on here. I know we're 56 minutes in. We'll crank these last 2 spots out. The plan for the rest of the regular season, and this is the first time in 5 years we've had to address this. We are not switching to off-season mode just because the Buffalo Bandits are done. One reason is because we don't want to use up all of our off-season topics right now. But number 2 is also because the NLL is going right now, and we're kind of covering this by the seat of our pants. But moving forward, Monday, because this is Friday's show, Monday we're going to be reacting to the playoff games plus Sabres and so on and so forth. Wednesday, we're putting out our 5th anniversary show. It's already edited. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. We don't hit on like topics like this, but we kind of review our 5 years, how we got to where we were, how thankful we are, and blah, 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 blah. Give that a listen on Wednesday. So no interview next week because they'll still be in round 2 of the playoffs. Next Friday, the 8th, we're going to be previewing the rest of round 2. One of the series might be wrapped up. It might not be. It might be going to game 3, but the other series will be in just game 2. Monday, the 11th, is going to be the reaction show. Wednesday, the 13th, at this moment, we're planning on having a finals type of interview. I have some different ideas I'm trying to do, but because it's probably going to be short notice, it might be difficult to pull off. But I'm hoping that we at least have one more interview coming out on Wednesday the 13th. Friday the 15th, we'll be previewing the finals. Monday the 18th, we'll be reacting to at least game 1, maybe game 2. Maybe the finals are wrapped up. But after May 18th, me and Phil and producer Pat are going on a nice little break. A little 9-day break. We will be back Wednesday the 28th in May. That is where our first show of the off-season schedule will be. Every single episode from then on forward will be on Wednesday until November, December, one of the 2. But on the 28th will be the nominee show for the 5th annual BSC Buffalo Bandits Award Show. So we'll be putting out the fan vote. Be sure to look on the social medias. You can DM us your votes. It's the fan favorite Buffalo Bandit. We've done that the last 3 or 4 years. It's always been a hit. So we're going to be doing it again this season. But again, we got 5 after the show, 5 more regular in-season Monday, Friday shows. We got our 5th anniversary show next Wednesday. We got a hopefully finals interview on the 13th. And then on May 28th, it's a Wednesday. That is when our off-season schedule will begin. But Phil, we're already about an hour in. Round 2 of the NLL playoffs kick off Friday at 7:30 between San Diego and Toronto. The next day, 7:30, Halifax versus Georgia, game 1. And then game 2 between Toronto and San Diego kicks off Sunday at 6 p.m. We're probably not going to adjust our schedule based on Sabres' schedule, so we'll have to figure that one out. But game 2 will take place then. Phil, first thoughts, real quick. We'll start with San Diego and Toronto because they're the matchup that has game 1 and 2 this weekend. But again, thank you, schedule makers. Again, I understand the whole schedule part, but being able to space these out so you get to see every game is much different and much improved from round 1 where it was kind of condensed. This one, you're going to be able to see every game and it's a standalone game. So what are your thoughts on San Diego, Toronto? That's going to be through 2 games, hopefully, by the time we talk.
Yeah, it's weird because in these matchups we don't really have the obvious like, oh, Vancouver's going to do this, or Saskatchewan, or Colorado, or Buffalo. Like,
by the way, all our predictions already done. Like, we're done.
Yes.
We're not ever going to review what we did because we were all incorrect.
Nope. Yep. Picked all the top seeds, and we went chalk, and it went I don't know what the opposite of
We
chalk
went
is,
chalk and
but
they had Expo.
yeah, they had erasers and
Yeah.
erased all of our chalk.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I think San Diego's still coming into their own at the end of the season, very similar to Halifax, but Toronto also coming into their own. They've been very hot and cold the whole season, but they did a good job in that game against the Rush. They were away for that one, so that doesn't seem to affect them for game 2. But San Diego, obviously, also away, all of these teams except Georgia. But I think it's going to be I think all these are going to be really fun matchups because, again, you don't have the obvious seed to kind of root for. Obviously, there's higher versus lower, but Toronto and San Diego, I think, are two fun teams to watch. I think it's going to be a good goalie battle as long as O'Rig plays like he can. I think Nick Rose right now is at the top of his game. I
Do they
know.
start Nick Rose? It's Matt
No, they
Sawyer.
will not start Nick Rose. Give him a game off. I know,
So
like
happy that Pitt's going to be able to continue next year.
he let in a lot of goals in game 1, but he still had a pretty good performance. So I'm not going to take anything away from him. But it'll be interesting to see if San Diego can get going early and not need late game heroics to push them over the edge. But if they can start hot, I think it'll be a little bit more difficult for Toronto, but I think it's going to be a very even game.
Yeah, I asked Dawson Nielsen this on the Wednesday interview. Go listen to that. Listen, remember I got the listen,
You
not
did.
the
Yeah, you didn't say
read.
read this
I
time.
corrected this time. Adjusting, always getting better. Probably not. I'm probably always getting worse. I asked him this. I went, what's more important? Toronto's defense keeping San Diego under 10 or Toronto's offense getting up and over 10? And he mentioned, and I agree with him, Toronto over 10 because their offense has been such hit and miss.
Yep.
But to see how different they play with Mark Matthews on the field and even him not being 100% another week off the injury, I think this is and I kind of phrase it this way as well. The big bad bandits aren't there for Toronto. At this moment, and I'm not just saying this because it's a 7-8 matchup, I would be shocked. And I think a lot of people also would be shocked, even though I shouldn't be shocked based on what we saw round 1. Toronto versus Georgia seems like it's destined to happen between those two teams. And like Toronto had such a bad year last year, starting the way they did. And then Jamie Dowick saying, oh, we probably figured we would be 0-5 started. And that's when I fought back and going, if you thought you were going to be 0-5, why didn't you make moves to not be 0-5? But with the young players that they have that have given juice to the veterans back there, Toronto to me just seems like they're hitting the stride perfectly. Like besides the overtime loss versus Saskatchewan and Buffalo in Hamilton beating them, they've been like one of the top teams. Like if you switch the Saskatchewan and Toronto result from week 21, Toronto's the higher seed. Like
Correct.
that's how close it was between those two teams. So if you get vintage Nick Rose in net and you do not allow San Diego's offense, which has been very bad this year, to get going, I think Toronto hits 10 and they win the game. Like, I don't see how San Diego can score up and over 10, 11, 12, 13 goals versus Toronto. I can't see it. So it really comes down to...
Would you have seen them scoring 13 against Ward and Colorado's defense either?
Well, technically they only scored 12, right?
That's true.
Sorry.
That's true.
Had to toss that out there. Did they win 12-11 though? Or was it 13-12?
13-12.
Oh, okay. I blanked out. It's been a long week. But yeah, I think without discrediting what we've seen from San Diego and their defense and O'Rig and net, because they've been phenomenal, I would not be shocked if each one of these games is under 10. Like I would not be shocked if it's, a 9-8 game, a 7-6 game. I could see a very low scoring matchup, but we also saw that versus Buffalo versus Georgia, and that was 27 combined goals. But I do think that this is a Toronto. It's Toronto or bust. Like at this point, and I know I had them pegged for the 8th seed. Right now, there's nothing besides San Diego standing in their way from getting to the finals. And I think CJ Kirst is unbelievable. Owen Hiltz is unbelievable. I would like to see a little bit more from Chandler Rogers up at the forward group. But, I mean, you're getting secondary. You got Chris Boucher, who had a down season, score 5 against Saskatchewan. Like, I think Toronto's a juggernaut. If they hit 10, I think they win. I really do. And then, Matt Sawyer's going to be a finalist coach. Move on here. Halifax versus Georgia. And this one, I could honestly see Halifax, and this has nothing to do with the home game. I already talked about that. Um, I really think that with how Halifax has been playing for the last month and a half, 2 months of do or die, and they were hitting their stride. If Randy Stotts comes back, Warren Hill's playing unbelievable. Georgia, though, if their offense is what we thought it was, they're disgusting. Like if Georgia scores 11, 12 goals, I don't see anybody that can beat them. But with Michael Grace going down, I was kind of talking to Dawson Nielsen on Wednesday's interview, and I'm going to play a clip here in just a second. I was like, okay, how does really like Halifax is pretty much going to win every single faceoff draw. Does that impact the game whatsoever by putting more pressure and more time on attack and making Dobson play more and the defense to play more that's already going to have a lot of guys step up because Michael Grace is out. And this is what he had to kind of say with Jake Withers winning every single faceoff versus Georgia.
I mean, we saw it, right? We saw it. We saw it in the San Diego, Colorado game. Yeah. Possessions matter, right? Batiste got them possessions, and that's what allowed to them come back. Yeah, we can argue does faceoffs matter to a point, Right. But yeah, like, it's important for Halifax because it's one of their main pieces. Like, you can't go anywhere around the league and tell me someone's better than Jake Withers as a complete package of playing defense, taking the faceoffs, winning the ball, scoring in transition. You don't have a guy that can play those 5 roles, play on the PK. You don't have that guy across the league. It is important for them because that's one of their X factors of their team, to be quite frankly. But I mean, we saw it with Ben Trumbo, what he did against the milkman, Connor Farrell in Georgia this past weekend. If you can muck up the draw and try to make it into a 50-50 battle and get your wings to support, like, yeah, is it so important to have a good draw guy? Yes, it is. But the other thing is Georgia's been playing without a face-off guy all season long.
Yep.
And their wings are just as good, if not better than anyone else.
So I do agree. I think Jake Withers coming up clean is going to put that extra pressure on Georgia. But I kind of thought that with Buffalo as well. And right at that point, right at the end where he said Georgia's been playing without a faceoff man all year, they know what to do. I really think both of these series are as simple as this. If Toronto can score up and over 10, and if Georgia can get to 11 or 12, I think it's done deal. I really do. It's crazy that after what we saw in round 1, that's as simple as these series are. But that's the way I'm at. If either team can put up and over 10 goals, they're going to win the series.
First off, he had a nice looking hat in that video.
He said he just got it too. Like he got it in the mail because we talked about that before. And he goes, "Yeah, it took a minute to get on because Patty Gregoire sent me a care package and had to throw on the hat."
I do think the interesting thing about Halifax and Georgia is kind of, I think you have Georgia, as great as they are, I think they're more of a high-flying, fast team, and Halifax, to me, is more of a physical, bruising team. So yep. I think it'll be interesting just to see how those two styles clash. I think it'll be, again, just interesting, like which style will overtake the other. Will Halifax's bruising style be too much for the speed of Georgia, or the speed of Georgia be too much for Halifax's style of offense and defense? So I think that'll be fun to watch, but I agree with you. I think Georgia's just, I don't, with how well they did against Buffalo, and we talked about it a lot, like Buffalo to me played bad as well, which didn't help anything. But if Georgia can play like that, play with that confidence and that swagger, and having Brett Dobson back there is just everything you need, plus that defense, plus what the offense is doing, plus Nolan Byrne chirping everybody out there. I think Georgia's going to be very, very difficult to beat the rest of the way.
So I think we both expect Toronto, Georgia type of finals. I think a lot of people are also expecting that, but based on
so that means it'll be Halifax, San Diego.
Yeah, whatever you think is going to happen, pick the opposite.
All purple final.
Oh man, that would be nice for the eyes. Little Barney finals. But Phil, we without the Bandits even playing or anything like that, we still went an hour and 10. So we're gonna wrap this one up on the next episode, which will be out on Monday. Fingers crossed at this moment. pending Sabres Game 7, which I still don't understand how they don't have a time released.
Because they know it's not going to Game 7. They're going
That's
to
fair,
win in
but
6.
none of the Game 7s are.
Yeah.
They're all TBD. Stupid.
Even the NHL can't schedule things.
At least they have the arenas.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to take that last shot. On that episode, we'll talk about the last 2, hopefully just one Sabres game. We'll go over round 2, the start of round 2 of the NLL playoffs. One of the matchups might already be done. We might not even be able to talk about one of them, though. And then maybe we'll be able to squeeze in the Bills then. Fingers crossed, maybe. But again, remember, we're still going through May. May 18th, which is a Monday, will be the final Monday-Friday show, and then we're taking a couple days off, and we'll be back for our Wednesday show the rest of the summer through fall on just Wednesdays. But again, we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep talking about the NLL playoffs. Even though the Bandits are done, it's okay. We're not going away. We'll be around for you to play.
Listen to.
Sure, I was trying to rhyme as much as I could there. Again, I'm tired. I'm got to go finish the garden. Not now because it's dark out, but that's tomorrow's job. Put post in the garden. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Give Phil's 100th article a read, breaking down the game. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Enjoy the games this weekend, even though Bandits aren't there. It's still on all, still across. Bye-bye!